Where's it going to play as a holiday, as doing something a little bit special, and kind of get into maybe some of the things in sports that we changed? And let's just start with the predictions you made last time you were here.
I've been hearing that for a few weeks now. Yeah,
the Bills finished 10-6.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that, huh?
Championship game, and you said something.
Yeah, you must.
One, they can't go 10-6. They still could go 9-7. Two, the Bengals are not eliminated from the playoffs yet. So those two.
You remember that as well? Oh boy.
Nathan Peter. Okay.
Yeah.
What in sports bothers you?
I would have to say finger pointing. I'm seeing that so much now in basketball and football. Everybody's critiquing teammates and ownership, and I don't know. I think they're getting away from the basics of the game, and the money I think is driving a lot of decisions, and the Le'Veon holdout, and to me it's just getting really convoluted. The sport is so grand on its own. There's such a huge following. Look at Duffy with the Bills. I mean, they could go over and he'd still be at every freaking tailgate. So
season tickets, true.
Yeah, right. So I just think it's getting a little diluted. I don't know if it's the money. I don't know if it's the egos. I'm not sure what it is, but I would try and change some of that, but probably impossible.
I think a lot of this comes back to social media. People approach the way that they conduct themselves and relate to each other differently than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, that applies to way more than sports, though, right? And it's just we see it, a lot of us see it play out that much more in sports. I don't think that genie's going back in the bottle anytime soon. I think if anything else, it's going to get worse.
How about you? Got something that...
Well, it's coming, and I think it's long overdue in sports and college basketball. I think there's a lot of things that need to change in college basketball. I think that game needs to evolve a little bit to get a little more interest maybe in the regular season. It is coming. It's going to be with the league, but that whole one-and-done rule, I think it'll help the NBA, and I think it'll help college basketball. There are multi-talented players who can come right out and go to the NBA. They should be allowed to, and I think the college basketball game needs to change a little bit. You know, I know some in the specifics of the rules, but move that three-point line back. Change the game a little bit. Open it up a little bit more so it doesn't just become that back and forth. But those things for that specific sport in college basketball, I would like to see that evolve. And baseball-wise, there's a million things that baseball needs to evolve in if they want to go into the next decade plus and still bring fans in. Football, give them a lot of grief for a lot of things. Football's not afraid to make changes in that way. I think baseball needs to make changes, big-time changes to the way they handle their game.
I know you probably got a bunch. Pick one.
The one that's been bothering me the most this season, pay the kids who play college sports. And I'll give you an example. Last weekend, Syracuse had a big Manhattan weekend. They played Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium, and then the Syracuse basketball team was playing at the Garden, right? If you wanted to go to both of those games, it was going to cost you probably around $1,000 to get in the door and watch these games play. Meanwhile, of the, what, Mike, 90 kids between the football roster and the basketball roster, 3 of them are going to have a genuine opportunity to play professional sports. Those kids get nothing out of it. Meanwhile, these schools are raking in money and selling advertising and upping their view. And Boeheim's got a shoe contract, and he's getting money, and he's got assistants that are getting money. I mean, come on. How do you justify just Syracuse, which isn't even a power football school, having that kind of money coming in over the weekend, yet none of these kids get anything out of it?
I mean, this stuff wasn't even talked about when I was younger or when I was playing. About paying athletes.
You got your money under the table.
Yeah. I think the one thing I got when I was at Richmond was a trench coat.
And to be fair, you got paid over the table as a member of the New England Patriots.
I did, and I kept my first pay stub, so I've got that going for me.
Did you cash the paycheck?
I had to.
Well, was there a story about Ricky Henderson framed his first paycheck and it was for like $1 million?
$1 million. And his agent walked in and said, you know you got to take that to the bank.